meeting to order. We are returning from executive session that was to discuss a personnel matter and also to review our building emergency plans. Would you please stand for the pledge of the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Beautiful thing, yeah?
It is waving from the fan. Can I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda? First is Petra, second is Jason. All in favor? It is unanimous with 5. So for tonight's meeting, Stacy's not here. Her daughter has her senior daughter has a soccer game, and so she's off for that. And Gusta also cannot be here tonight.
Mrs. Hopper, can you note for the record that Stacy was in the executive session? Right?
Yes, Stacy was in executive session, and I did communicate that to Vanessa, but thank you for also for others here. Okay, so we're going to move into board comments. I first want to say welcome back, everyone. I can't believe the summer is at an end, but I'd like to start with Deanna, please.
So first of all, I just want to comment, Dr. Robinson, you look great in your jacket.
Inside joke.
You know, I wore it at superintendent conference. So you know, I was walking through the halls today. because I went in the one door and then walked all the way through. I stopped to talk to some administrators, some teachers, some aides, and you know, I said, I started asking the same question, like, what are you looking forward to tomorrow? Like, what are you geared up for the year? And you know, I got some really cool, good responses, and most of them weren't excited. One's looking for new staff, because there will be new staff coming for them, so they're excited about that. One elementary teacher said, I just want to have my kids back. I just want to meet the kids, and I just want to have them back. New learners, I'm excited to hear about and learn from new learners. And just eager to learn about and work with new leadership and what's going to happen in that classroom. They were pretty stoked about it, and everybody was just so positive. So I'm happy about that. I'm glad the environment is charged, and I'm looking forward to a really great 23-24. So it's pretty cool.
Thank you. Tom?
I'm actually going to reserve my comments for the good of the order.
Okay, all right, thank you. Jackson, we'll go to you next.
So yeah, I hope everyone had a wonderful summer and a great superintendent conference day. Really excited to get back to school tomorrow, and hopefully everybody all have a wonderful 23-24 school year, as Ms. Dixon said. I know we have a wonderful fall coming up. I know Luana's having a color run, and you know, all the PTAs are putting together some fun fall events for their students this year. So like I said, hopefully we have a wonderful and exciting year.
Thank you. We'll move over to Petra.
Good evening, everybody. I wanted to echo the comments. The superintendent's speech this morning was fantastic. Good job. I also wanted to say I met Dr. Cecily Wilson-Turner this morning for the first time. Just thrilled to have her on board. I'm sorry I wasn't there at the last board meeting, but we were visiting Niagara. And I also was not there at the last board meeting to express my deep appreciation for Dr. Wood and everything she has done for the school. I've only been in this position, gosh, it feels like forever. It's been a year, but I've learned so much from you, and I'm so excited to see where you go in the future. And let's have a really good year.
Thank you. Jason?
Well, echoing everyone else's comments, I'll just say welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, staff today, students tomorrow, and best wishes for an excellent year.
Thank you. Mine will be short and sweet, too. Again, welcome back, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Robinson, also awesome jacket. But thank you for this, the morning kickoff. It was very exciting. I love the new theme. I perfectly support it, and I hope everyone really believes and feels that way, because that is, I couldn't, this is not a truer statement. And I look forward to the walkthrough tomorrow. That's a pretty exciting tradition, and I hope everyone can make it. I know that some are going to jump in at different points because of other commitments, but it is really a wonderful tradition, so hopefully everyone can be there. So at this point, I'm going to read this. We're going to go into public comments, and I'm going to read the statement, and I'm going to invite Glennis Cho up first to speak on behalf of the students. For the SDA. This is a business meeting. We provide opportunities for the public to speak. This is an opportunity for residents to address the Board of Education. The board reminds residents that the public comment portion of our meeting is only one item and on a long agenda. We therefore ask that each speaker be as succinct as possible and that remarks be limited to 2 to 3 minutes in an effort to ensure that the widest number of community viewpoints are heard. The board asks members of groups or the public to withhold comment if their viewpoints have already been presented. We also expect that residents speak in a respectful and courteous manner so as to model proper civility and decorum for our students. Comments or questions regarding a specific staff member or student are confidential and will not be allowed or addressed by the board. District residents may also send questions or comments via BOE at shenschools.org. We all get those emails that go to that email address, we being the board. All questions or comments come into the Office of Public Information and are shared with the board and the superintendent. Policy questions or concerns are typically addressed by the board president. Operational questions or concerns are typically addressed by the superintendent and or designee. When you come up, please provide your name and address. In the event follow-up is necessary. So first, Glennis, could you please come up, and then we'll invite members of the public to come up.
Hello. So for Senate, we chose movie media as our homecoming theme, and we're also getting ready for our Leadership Day meeting on the second week of school.
Thank you. So at this point, any members of the public would like to come up and comment? Seeing no movement, I will close the public comment portion of our agenda, of our meeting, and I'll move into the superintendent's report. Dr. Robinson?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hoffman. First of all, I want to thank the board members for being present this morning for our opening of the 23-24 school year. And, you know, it's interesting. This is the 19th time doing that. However, I got to tell you, every time I do it, I toss and turn all night. But this morning I had the good fortune of having a phone call from Barb at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was actually awake when she called. I was like, this is crazy that Barb was calling me at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's crazier that I was actually awake. And so I say that because literally I've been awake since yesterday. And part of it is just that, you know, when you think about the significance of the moment, of trying to kick off a school year, trying to set a certain tone and tempo for 2,200 individuals to listen to internalize, and then each day carry out the mission of the organization is something that I certainly will never take lightly or take for granted that it will automatically happen. And so, you know, the couple message I was trying to get across was, as those who were in attendance, and I think most people here were in attendance, so I'm not going to reiterate the whole thing, was the whole notion of that we have to be unequivocally supportive. And that thought actually came to me actually last spring as we watched some of the, and for lack of a better word, some of the craziness that's happened across the country in terms of how people are politicizing public education. And I think about talking to colleagues from, again, many different states, and some of the horror stories that they share about how kids are being othered in public schools. And when you think about what public education stands for in a democratic country, and I personalize it to myself, the only reason why I'm in the United States of America is because of public schools. You could go to school regardless of your economic circumstances, regardless of your parents' professional, whatever, it doesn't matter. As a child in this country, you should be able to go to school and have access to a quality experience. And so the whole concept of us being unequivocally supportive, we shouldn't pick and choose who we're going to be more supportive or less supportive of. At the end of the day, every parent sends their child to us with blind faith that we're going to do what's in their best interest. And when we stop doing that as public systems, I think we lose the game in terms of creating a moral and just society. And now we're in this battle of immigrants. And I laugh all the time because here I am, your superintendent, an immigrant to this country. And I'm thinking like, you know, if this was 1977, would I be afforded the same opportunities with the political rhetoric that's sometimes happening right now to families that are moving to this country for the betterment of themselves and for their children? And so I think about it all the time in a very deep and profound way, to say that truly all means all. And yes, we all have families that move in this district for a wide variety of reasons. Some of them are truly immigrants because of circumstances in their home countries that compel them to leave, to find a better path. Like all of us, by the way, all our generations. And most of us don't have to go back too far and look back. We are the children of immigrants. And I think about that all the time. And I think about the whole notion that every day our demographic change as a system. And as a system, we have to make the adjustments. We have to reach kids and meet them where they are and take them to that place where they ought to be, right? And that's the power of education. That's that transformational power of education. So I hope that message went across. And I really want to punctuate that message then. I want to punctuate the message now. That, you know, throughout the course of our lives, there are people who catch us when we don't even realize we're falling. There are people who look out for us when we don't even realize they're looking out for us. There are people paving ways so we can find success and not even knowing who those people are. And they're not doing it for thanks. They're doing it simply because they're fortunate to be able to do it. And I think that's the power of our system here at Shen. And I trust that we can continue to be that model of what public education should be. That every young person who walks through our door, they're walking into an environment where they feel welcome. They walk into an environment where the adults that they're interacting with will have their best interests in mind and will try to understand their needs. And so that's the message, because we're in a very precarious times right now where unfortunately the bedrock of our society is being twisted and turned in some ways that I don't think certain is good. And I know that there's some folks out there listening to my voice now that absolutely disagree with me. However, the one thing I'm always going to stand firm on is that the 9,500 plus kids that we serve every day, when they come here to Shen, they're going to get a good experience. Is it going to be the perfect experience? Is it going to be the best experience all the time? I can't guarantee that, but I can guarantee you that they're going to be better off as a result of going through what we call the Shen experience. And I think that's what every parents want. Provide access and opportunities for our young people to find success. So that was the message this morning, but that message is a message every year. Different words, same sentiment, same meaning. And I hope that those who are debating many things right now about what we do with certain families can kind of draw back the curtain off their own personal predicaments and just peek back on their own lives for a second and realize that where we are, we didn't get here by ourselves. Somebody somewhere along the line sacrificed so we can have the lived experiences that we have. So I really appreciate the board having that, and I hope that truly, that when we debate different things and we kind of gaslight and we use these terms and rhetoric to hide the ugliness of sometimes we want to do in society, that we realize that in every child there's a promise. And I tell every day, I'm a testimony of that promise. The little kid from St. Elizabeth, Jamaica, just as your superintendent, that people are talking about his beautiful jacket. Isn't life something else? And I said it because, you know, I hope that every young kid sees that and says, you know, I too am America. I too can be whatever I want to be. So that's our message. So I want to thank you, board, for that. Sorry for the emotions, but it's deep and personal. So I really appreciate that.
And so just,
Yeah.
and again, not to be anticlimactic, just a couple of the minor things. Not a minor, it's actually significant things. You're gonna hear Jenny come and talk about some staffing tonight. And, you know, when we say that this has been a busy summer, when you put in magnitude that we've hired now probably about 120 new employees in the system, put that times each one of them taking hours and hours and hours. And so we're pleased, and tonight you're gonna see some of those folks, but also we're pleased to not necessarily hire, but contract with some folks. And one person, again, I'm gonna leave Jenny to address the personnel things when she gets to that point. But I just want to point out with us, we have a new SRO. One of our former SRO retired, but I'm not sure if people retire, right? They retire and get another job in another system. So we have here, Mike Martin is our new SRO, and Mike comes with us. He was in Saratoga for 18 months at Saratoga Middle School as an SRO, so he's coming with experience. He's coming with a certain demeanor that I think that would be beneficial to our kids to make those real connection with kids in ways that are meaningful. And certainly being a resident of the community with kids in the system is beneficial because you see the system not only from the lens of a law enforcement person, but you see it from the lens of a parent, of a community member. And so we're pleased to have Deputy Martin on board as one of our new SROs. So Mike, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So that's all my comments, and again, looking forward to the tour tomorrow for those board members who can make it. Looking forward to wear comfortable shoes, folks. It's a lot of walking, and it's going to be hot.
Can I ask you to cover one more thing before we move
Sure.
to the next agenda item? Could you provide an update on the Gowana project?
Sure. So there we are. You said it in the sunshine, the shine on Mrs. Lori's face. So you know, and I'm gonna say kudos to. I'm gonna start with Robin because I'm looking directly at her. I'm gonna say kudos to Barb because I'm looking directly at her. Augie's not here, but if he was here, I would say kudos to Augie, and also kudos to the contractors. Last week, Robin and I were walking through. Few days before the open house and contemplating can we or can we not do an open house, and we're just like, you know what, we're gonna do it, and kudos to Robin's leadership having confidence, because I would say what a difference a week makes. So last week stuff were all wide open everywhere. I came in yesterday, was it yesterday, Barb, or Saturday? Yesterday, walking through and happened to see Robin and her husband were here walking through as well. The place is looking great. It's bright, and quite frankly, if you're not looking carefully, you really wouldn't think that we still have construction behind certain walls to be done. So kudos to the contractors. You know, they put in the work over the long weekend, and they'll be working second shift from here until the project is done. And so we're excited about the pace of it. There are always delays because of a wide variety of things, but certainly the things that we wanted to have ready for September are ready for September. Kudos to the Gowana faculty and staff for making the adjustments, recognizing that the library is no longer a library, it's an ad-lib office and whatnot now, and certainly I expect that the kids will follow the lead of the adults. And the adults, by Elizabeth and I popped in today in the Gowana faculty meeting, and Robin mentioned that you know, she was absolutely pleased by the positivity that's being expressed by folks coming back and knowing that certain spaces are just not there available for them. So the project is on target for what we have now. The rest of it is continuous, and we have a lot of folks who will be making sure that each day monitoring the progress of it. So we're pleased in terms of where we are right now, and again, we'll see how the rest of it pans out for the next 2 months or 3 months, for whatever that timeline might be.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So moving on to tenure recommendations, I invite Ms. Scalia.
You got
I feel
it.
like
Miss Scalia.
Scalia.
You got
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
Okay, so I am happy to be able to present the tenure recommendation for Ms. Cameron Thorpe Odom, who's here with us today. She is recommended for tenure as an academic administrator for Shenendehowa. She was recommended by Michelle Mylod. While there's a comprehensive overview of her recommendation, some things that just stood out is how collaborative she is, how she looks at process improvement, refines processes, and advocates for students.
Thank you. Question, we're gonna vote
Well,
now?
she's also on the staffing agenda as well, so
She is
it's
on
a
the staffing
choice. You can do either one.
Okay.
You can vote now or later.
What would you prefer?
It doesn't, we can wait, that's fine.
Okay, all right. So stay here. We'll invite you up after we vote on the staffing recommendations. Thank you so much. So we're gonna move on to the information items, and the first item up is our 2023-2024 tax levy. Mrs. Wetmore Chase.
So you will notice that this looks very familiar because we approved it originally on the first board meeting in August. We did just recently get our star numbers, so we updated the numbers in that next section down. And I also updated, so the estimated star reimbursement is $87,591. We have to get that from the state, actually the county. And then a little farther down, I updated the fund balance percent and numbers. Actually, that doesn't look like the updated one, so.
And the board has a revised version that
We
we
do.
act on and sign later on.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll vote after we vote.
So that was the update on the text bill.
Oh, I thought it was gonna delay my tax bill, but it didn't.
No, tax bill's gonna be on time.
Oh,
It's
yes,
on time.
yes, they will.
Sorry, go ahead, Petra.
No,
I know, it's right there.
how close were we to the estimate? I was curious as to what.
I don't even try to estimate because
That makes sense.
it's not, it wouldn't be close.
So it comes and comes and then.
What I typically do is leave last year's number there, because it's a good estimate of it, but, then we just update.
Did you want to move to?
Yeah, slide that
I
one.
tried to move back and that didn't work.
You're right, it's right in your face.
Right.
At least I have a screen for mine, so.
Thank you. Sorry.
On the financial reports?
Yeah, do you want to move into,
Yes, so we'll move on to the year-end financial report. As you know, we recently hired a treasurer this summer. She started August 14th. We've had a retiree from a neighboring school who was a business manager help us close the books. We still may have some adjustments when the auditors come in, but we think we're in a very good place right now. So I think this is a good approximation of where we're going to be.
Which one you just got to this or which document?
Both. I mean, the numbers that we see here are a good approximation of where we're going to be at the end of the year. And we continue to get numbers even as of this morning for our workers' comp reserve. So based on our activity for this year, we expended about 96.4% of our expenditure budget, and on the revenue side, we earned 103.59%, which is huge, but there are a couple of good reasons why you'll see those changes. The narrative kind of goes through some of the reasons for the differences between budget and actual. I don't know how much you want me to go through it necessarily. Under the salaries, for the instructional salaries, we had 16 retirements, 16 resignations, 78 paid leaves, 46 unpaid leaves, and 102 COVID-related leaves. So while we're stabilizing with regard to COVID, it's still here. So we captured that information for you. On the administrative salaries, we had 1 retirement this year, 2 resignations, 4 paid leaves, and 6 COVID-related leaves. The non-instructional staff, we had 29 retirements, 87 resignations or terminations, 159 paid leaves, 40 unpaid leaves, and 152 COVID-related absences. So a lot of movement going on in the HR, attendance, turnover growth there. Benefits, we have.
Can I ask a
Sorry.
question just
Sure.
on the staff? So I'm assuming, or I guess this is my question, so we have savings in all of the categories because,
Yes.
and I'm assuming that's timing issues or from like the time it takes, there's someone leaves
And
for whatever
replacement
the
cost
reason is, and by the
differences.
time we can hire,
And
right?
replacement
Because,
cost differences.
yeah, because ideally and that too,
Yeah,
right?
that's a lot of it.
This is kind of lower.
Yeah,
People
lower
retire at this
right,
salary,
okay.
we hire at this salary.
Okay. So the savings here does not reflect, for those watching at home, it doesn't reflect that we're understaffed.
No, correct.
You know, our substitute budget for teachers is about $1.8 million. So despite that there's a lot of leaves, we have a large budget for substitutes as well. Moving on to benefits, health insurance is a huge cost for us. Obviously, we did have savings there, mainly because we budgeted between 5 and 10.5%, and our average increase for the year was 2.36%. One of the big reasons that we had savings there, I'm going to move to the Medicare Advantage plan, Humana, decreased 17.54% to 73.47% based on the plan. So a lot of savings generated from just going to the one Humana Medicare Advantage plan. And I should say, for all of the Medicare Advantage plans we had, Humana picked up equal or better benefits for every retiree at a much lower cost. So it was a win-win across the board. I was going to say I won't necessarily itemize all of those things. I will say in the Social Security line, we probably had a little bit more savings than usual because federal funds did pick up some of that this year for some of those salaries that got coded there. Moving on to some other items, equipment, you'll see $62,000 savings from the adjusted budget and 1.4 overexpended from the adopted budget. The main reason for that, just as an explanation, is because we had a large number of carryover encumbrances from the year before. So the money for all of those open POs carried forward to the new year to fund those purchases when they finally were received. So ultimately we had savings, but just from the adopted budget side, we were
So essentially, the term overexpended is actually a misnomer to some sorts because it's the encumbrances that made what we spend over what the budget was. So I'm glad that you clarified it because you see that you think that, oh my God, did we spend more than we budget for? It's the carryover piece that we're spending this year that goes into the next year.
Right. And, you know, if you think about it, the total budget was, 194,000 or 194 million. We separate them out by every single budget line, but where we actually expend can be in different budget lines. So in total, obviously, we had a large amount of savings within our budget. We just had to move it among all of the budget line items to make it more accurate for reporting purposes. Contractual services, you'll see that utilities was way overexpended by $557,000. I'm sure all homeowners can certainly relate to that, unfortunately. Special education overexpended $457,000. That has been a trend over the last couple of years, and probably will continue, it seems like, as we move forward. Transportation services were overexpended about $273,000. Again, it had a lot to do with fuel costs, also had to do with replacement parts and all of those things. Just the cost of doing business has just increased substantially. Moving on to some other areas. Textbooks, our plan was pretty much on target. We maximized our state aid in all areas because of how they have us claim our aid. BOCES aid, we had about $909,000. in savings, but we did have over expenditures, as I said, in special education, in our occupational education, staff development, but then we had savings on the other side as well.
And again, these were encumbrances that we spend more than the adopted budget.
Correct.
I just keep want to clarify that overexpended meaning we're spending more than adopted budget, not necessarily overexpending the budget itself.
Correct. Supplies, ultimately, we're seeing savings of 368,000, but we were overexpended from the adopted budget, and again, it's cost of doing business, just, has increased substantially this last year. Transfers to other funds, we had some savings, 246,000, some of it came from special aid fund.
Can you explain a little bit, Kathy, what some of the things, because it's an unusual one.
Yes, special aid fund in essence is where our summer special education program is recorded. And in the summer, the state actually reimburses us 80% of summer special education expenses, and the district has to kick in 20%. So we budget what we think our 20% is going to be, and we actually had savings, so we didn't spend as much as we thought we were going to. Transfer to capital fund, fully expended as usual. Debt service fully expended. Transfer to school lunch, that $59,000 savings, I think we budgeted about 100, and those were all to the bad debts or uncollected debts from the year. On to the revenue side, very good picture on the revenue side. Real property taxes, we actually did see that we were under budget a little bit, and part of that was actually a refund of taxes for the donated property, because we owned it for the second half of the year, but originally the school taxes were paid for the entire year. So we did have to refund half of the year of school taxes back to DCG for Maxwell Drive. Pilots, always a little bit of a crapshoot in
Can you explain pilots, Kathy?
Pardon me?
Explain pilots?
Pilots are payments in lieu of taxes, so those are generally through the IDA. Agreements when new businesses start up where they pay a little less than their original taxes would have been with an agreement from the IDA that it generates business. State aid, we had over $1 million in excess. BOCES aid was $952,000, which basically means last year we expended a lot in BOCES and we got a lot back in our BOCES aid. Transportation aid, we had $711,000 excess. This actually had partially to do with a write-off of a payable that we booked 2 years ago. As a result of COVID, there was talk that the state was not going to reimburse us all of our transportation aid. Ultimately, they did, so we were made whole. And so sort of writing off that payable, we're seeing the excess here of transportation aid. Foundation aid, we had about $200,000 excess, some shortfalls in some other areas. And I think there's a question as to why this didn't exactly add up to the total. I actually didn't itemize every single item. There was probably another 23 or 24,000 in miscellaneous other state aid. It's not terribly defined when we get it, so we have to go back and recode as we get more information. And I think it had to do with textbook homeless aid, I think was one of the categories, just an oddity from prior years.
So before we move off this, Kat, for board's purposes, so we get the budget, the state adopted budget, and then we get these aid runs. However, when we put our budget together, we are putting our budget together based largely on the governor's proposal because of the timing sequence. And so we have one estimated set of state aid that we use for the budget, then the state adopts the budget, and they send out aid runs, and then they recalibrate that again during the course of the school year, make those adjustments again. But at this point, we've already adopted the budget 6 months ago. So that's why you see some of these differentials. So we're always trying to predict on the worst case scenario side. This would have been a problem if Kathy would have been coming here saying that we're under versus excess. Because it's an estimation that we're using, right? And so we always use the governor's budget in New York because traditionally the governor is here, the Senate is here, and the Assembly is here, and they compromise and it's somewhere in the middle, right? So we start in that middle zone, so we're close to what we think the amount is. But when you put all this in the sequence, it's a percentage plus or minus percentage on all those different categories that makes those differences. But those differences are great when on the plus side versus when on the minus side.
So the next item is interest income. I think when we put the budget together, we were still kind of in the point something percent of interest. I'm happy to report that we made a lot of interest income this year because rates are going up. I think we budgeted $35,000 and we ended up over $2 million in it. So happy to report that. Federal revenue is another area where we have some excesses. Thanks to Barb and all the work she did for our FEMA reimbursements, $526,000. We didn't budget anything because we didn't actually think we were going to get anything in the end. But thanks to her due diligence, we did recognize $526,000. Medicaid reimbursements, that's actually based on a couple of years, kind of catch up in the Medicaid reimbursement revenue area. Medicare Part D, somewhat of a shortfall, but those first two items really helped our revenue line. Other revenue, a couple things to point out. We did receive lease revenue this year. We didn't budget any because we didn't know we were going to be earning lease revenue this year, but $323,000. We also received CPSE cost reimbursement for 2 years, so 174% over what we had budgeted. Refund of BOCES year's expenses, prior year's expenses, $253,000 excess. That's actually not typical that we have that much in excess, but obviously thrilled to take that. And you'll see some other miscellaneous items there as well. So our estimated fund balance reserves for 6/30/23, our fund balance we're projecting to be about 3.98% or about $8.2 million as a result of our expenditures at 96.4%, revenues at 103.59%. Our operational surplus just from those items is $4.2 million. And as you know, when we put the budget together, we intended to reappropriate $1.5 million for the 23-24 budget. And then with all of the other surplus, we are recommending these other contributions to reserves. Workers' comp reserve, as I mentioned, we just got that number this morning, $340,000 to bring us up to their long-term projections. Tax surcharge reserve, not recommending a change there. Based on the tax surcharge claims that came in versus our funding level, we think we're right in that sweet spot. Retirement contribution reserve, or proposed funding of the $750,000 that replenishes what we appropriated last year, and an additional $975,000 to provide us some additional resources to address increases in ERS costs and also some flexibility in funding as we move forward. Employee benefit accrued liability reserve. This reserve is utilized for all of our separation payments that we make when employees retire. So we're replenishing $660,000 as well as an additional $1,065,000. Our capital reserve was set up in 2016, and the terms upon which the voters approved that reserve allowed us to fund up to $12 million. This proposed increase of $4.8 million actually brings us to our cap of the $12 million. So we funded all of the capital reserve monies that we can currently with this particular capital reserve. We've used amounts throughout the years. In fact, this last capital project, we said we were going to use $3 million of that towards the 5 Maxwell project. So right now, I believe our balance in that reserve is about $5 million with this addition. The TRS sub-reserve, proposing $1.3 million in increases there. We're allowed to contribute up to 2% of TRS salaries on an annual basis, and that brings us just under that, just because I didn't want to, have to get into a calculation debate with our auditors. So we're right at that amount. I think the 1.4 million is the 2% number, but 1.3 is what we're recommending.
Just want to add a couple comments to Kathy's thing, which I again reported for the board. First of all, these calculations are not arbitrary. So we go through workers' comp and there's an estimation of what the potential cap will be. So we're kind of limited with the workers' comp based upon trends over the years. We're also trying to think about then which one of these reserves provide us the greatest flexibility to address various issues, be it when we eventually bring on full day and we want to make adjustments within the budget for staffing without having to have the budget increase by X percentage in any given year, used to help bridge those gaps. Or when the rates and employee retirement system is going to go up, and they're going to adjust. All these rates are following the market. We're kind of happy right now. We're happy for interest rates right now. 3 years ago, interest rates were non-existent. And so as those big losses or big gains fall off the market and the losses come back into the calculation, we're going to start seeing increase in those rates. And I often say we'll never have a situation, and I use the GM, I'm not disparaging GM, but we can't spend more money in benefits than we spend in steel if our job is to build cars. We cannot have a situation where we say we're going to cut staffing that's going to be instructing our kids because we're trying to pay retirement systems, right? And so these reserves ensure that we can do that and that, as well as have flexibility to move forward. The capital project reserve is the only one on here that's very restrictive, in that voters have to authorize the limit of how much we can contribute, as well as they have to authorize each time we're going to spend some of it. And we know as a system, we're always going to be under construction. I mean, we're already thinking about what's the next thing that we need to do, and you're going to hear from the architects and the folks in a couple months as a part of our 5-year building condition survey, that there's always something to do in a plant of this magnitude. And so this capital reserve serves as that kind of cushion, to kind of cushion some of the local impact of some of those projects. So I share that with the board because none of this is arbitrary. All of this is very strategic. How do we keep the district in a healthy fiscal position and be able to make adjustments to deal with uncertainties, especially those large ticket uncertainties as we move forward. So just give you some flavor of why we do the things or why we're proposing what we're proposing.
So, thank you for this. And good job. For Valerie. We're moving a lot of this money over so that we're at 3.98%, right? Because if we don't categorize...
The statutory, we can't go below 4%.
Exactly, which is why I feel like one of the defining reasons why we're moving that much money into the capital improvement bucket, because we can't leave it untouched, right? So I mean, it's not that we have an earmark for something yet, particularly. It's just that, generally speaking, we just need to assign a name to this money, right? But there's still 3.98% that's unassigned, right? And we're allowed to carry it over, right?
Yeah, the unappropriated piece of it. Yeah. Great point.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll also say great job. I mean, just the whole budget put together and then, spending up to the amount, 3.98, getting us as close as we can to 4. To have the max balance is great, and then we can carry over. My question, I guess, and you know this from some prior prior updates on the budget and everything, is I get a little twitchy when I see things like textbooks and library underspending, supplies underspending, equipment underspending, and I can't help but think there's gotta be, I'm sure there are other things we can spend on. So I guess my question is, because I know we're way over the 4% unless we put some of these monies in the reserves, how are we making that judgment call to say, 4.9, I mean, I get the reserves, it's good, but how are we striking that balance to say, are there more books we could be getting? Could we spread out some more of those furniture grants to classrooms and do more of those rather than, do 4 million in the capital? What's the analysis behind it?
So one, and I pulled this up. One, we maximize those aid categories. So instruction aid, we're pretty much right on point. So we're always going to maximize where we get aid from the state. The other side of the coin is we're also fortunate, like most school districts across the country. There's a lot of federal COVID dollars that we're also balancing. So we have, and it's a dangerous game potentially if you're not going to have an exit strategy. We have expedited the purchasing of a lot of things, particularly on the IT side. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying too is that we have done more this year than we probably typically done, because what's not here is all the funds that, and we're going to do it in a couple of weeks, update on the federal grant tracker, where millions of dollars have been expended on some of those things that you just mentioned to expedite things. And so what we can't do though is have total reliance on federal funds, because once those funds dry up, then what are we going to do on the backside to sustain certain things? So it's that delicate balance of not, the old notion of leaning too far over your skis, so to speak, and I don't ski, by the way, for clarification purposes, that we want to make sure that what we do in this year, we can reconcile it as the federal funds wean off in future years. So we don't have a situation, Jason, of not addressing needs. We're more strategic about how do we position ourselves so that when we have less federal funds, and we know we have some anticipated large needs coming down the pipe, we can address those things without the continued reliance on the federal funds on the backside of it. So what's being proposed is more strategic and tactical, looking down 2 years, 3 years down the road, and how can we create the greatest flexibility within our budget, within the law, which allows all these reserves to occur, and how do we maximize those reserves based upon legitimate calculations. The law doesn't say you have to do it, but these are the limits if you're going to do certain things under certain circumstances. So we want to try to maximize those limits as much as we can. Again, recognizing the federal funds are going to dry up. 2024, a lot of the federal funds are done, and we want to be able to sustain the things that we're doing, as well as anticipate some other big things as we move forward. So we're trying to basically create the healthiest budget situation possible, so we not find ourselves a year from now or 2 years from now having to have significant increases in tax rates to address what we see now as some big rock anticipated needs.
And I think capital is very flexible, right?
Capital is very restricted.
Well, I mean, it's I guess I should, let me rephrase that. Flexible in, like, let's say in February, we find a capital project, we can tap into those funds to pay for it.
But the voters have to approve it. Capital is the most restrictive one.
So anything we put in the reserve.
But when the capital project reserve was established, there was a $12 million threshold. So our objective is to get it funded back to that $12 million threshold. So any time we do a capital project, we can determine how much of that we want to use to offset some of the local pieces. The ones that we have greater flexibility is all the others, the ERS, the TRS, some of those other funds that, say for instance, if the rates go up in any of those retirement systems mid-year, we have the flexibility, instead of doing budget transfer from some other line to offset that cost, we can address those costs within the reserves and vice versa.
So, okay, so we're putting 4.8 in, which is essentially going to go to the Maxwell project, right?
Which we're going to need.
So how do we make the decision to say, so we're basically putting a down payment on that. So we got $4.8 million. We gotta spend.
We're basically saying we're gonna try to fund that reserve up to the voter approved limit of $12 million. That's the decision.
But then that can only be used to pay for voter
Specific
proof.
thing,
Can
and we
just
know,
approve
and
the
we know we're
55
gonna have
million?
capital projects
Right.
coming out of budget.
So I guess my question is, the alternative is bonding those funds, right?
But they still have to bond, that doesn't change anything.
No, well, it changes the amount, right? Because we'll have, it's like a down payment, right? We have less to bond if we use some of these reserves. I guess I'm trying to say, like, how do we decide it's better to use this money as a down payment versus, let's say, buy anything else we may need, right? Like, I'm trying to understand, like, are we seeing something in the bond rates that are going up that say, hey, we should be increasing our down payment because we're gonna get hit on this later?
So ironically, this helps with our bond rate. So we're at A plus, right? Which is, and a big part of the reason why we have good, the bond rating is we're talking about when you're borrowing tens of millions of dollars and having, you know, it's your credit score, right? If you have a high credit score, you borrow at a low interest rate. And for us, it's been tremendous. I mean, the what we're borrowing now and what we're able to borrow at interest is because they see this and say, as a school system, you have a healthy fiscal situation, right? So you have reserves to offset rainy day situation. You have reserves to temper the local impact on capital projects between what's aidable, building aidable, and what's not building aidable. Because they also know that then there's a built-in mechanism for the school district to maintain facilities. And so you're investing in infrastructure, and that's from a bond perspective, that's a good organization we want to invest in because we know that you have mechanisms to continue doing so. So ironically, these decisions on the backside saves us or prevents us from paying a significant more for borrowing money than if we didn't have some of the things in. So our bond percentages are relatively low in comparison to places that are in fiscal distress, for using the two examples.
Right, but that almost also argues against how much you would put for a down payment. But all right, how do we get at the 4.8 number then?
So basically, the cap is $12 million, and we want to fund up to that maximum amount.
All right, so this gets us to 12.
That's what I did basically. And all these other numbers also have not necessarily strict limitations on them. Say, for instance, TRS, sub-TRS.
Can you talk about those too? Yeah.
No, so sub-TRS, for example, is we could only allocate 2% of salary. So we calculate that number, and that becomes the ceiling for that. So we know that's what we could fund to. The employee accrued liability one it's one of those crazy accounting pieces that basically saying, and no places, by the way, have this amount. They're basically saying that if you were to go out of business today, what do you have to pay for everybody in the organization that has to leave? It's never going to happen, but yet the law says we have to keep funding towards that, and so that's why that number is larger. The ERS retirement contribution, again, is based upon an estimation of looking at ERS rates, and they're not as strict as TRS in terms of what the regulations are. However, they have to be within reasonable amounts. So when our auditors come in and they run all our ERS employee support stuff, they run all those numbers and say, okay, this is a reasonable amount to say what the ERS bill cost is going to be, and this is a reasonable amount to have in reserve to offset that cost if you have to offset all that cost, a portion of that cost in any given particular year. The workers' comp is very, again, very limited. It's not a lot of money, but it's very limited based upon our trends, our cases over the course of the year. The tax certiorari one is roughly, the kind of sweet spot is about 80% of your claims. And this past several months was when you get all the claims come in every day. We get all of the lawyers and all this stuff they want to get. So we look at all those things, add them up, and I think we're about 82% right now of our claims. Most accountants, folks would say if you got 80% of your claims, you're in a good place. So we're right around about 82. And for us, that's important because this community, the business community here is still very, I mean, when you think about it, who said a year and a half ago that we're going to have, what's the chicken place?
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, and then another place that's coming, the hunting place that's supposed to be coming. All those things are changing that we can anticipate those things. And each time someone comes in, they come in with a pilot, or somebody's selling a business that the market space is gonna drop, they're gonna have a reduction. So I say that, so these things are calculated based upon that. So when we look at those parameters, Jason, then we say, okay, based on those parameters, we have a chance to fund up to those parameters, we're gonna try to fund up to those parameters. So you almost get this game of elimination by what your caps are, and then you distribute based upon those caps. And for us, it comes right around that 3.9%, which is a nice, healthy place to be as a district as well. So that's how those things kind of come in. So literally kind of back into each piece of it and say what's left over, and then what also gives us a greatest flexibility through the course of the school year to deal with, quote unquote, rainy day, emergency, big rock stuff that you may not anticipate, and or to strategically plan forward for certain anticipated expenditures. Does that make some sense?
Yep. No.
Could I ask for some clarification on the timing of the capital reserve? Because so it only can be expended if it's approved by the voters. Voters just approved 3 million, right, from reserves?
Right.
But we didn't have 3 million in there, because now we're getting it up to 4.8.
No, we had.
No, we did.
We
We
did.
did.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So we're adding additional 4.8 now.
Yeah.
We already, so what is it at now then? After we
I
approve
believe
this?
before we made the contribution, I think we were down to $200,000.
Right, okay. So
Because we
now the
just
contribution is up to
allocated.
5 million with this 4.8. And so the only thing I was asking was about the timing. So when we approved the 3 million, there wasn't 3 million in there.
There was.
There was.
There was.
Oh, yeah, we can
The
approve something.
opening balance was 3.2.
That's what I wanted to
If you
clarify.
go to the reserve.
Okay, all right.
The third.
Oh, no, it was
Which
3.2.
one,
Okay.
Kat?
Yes, scroll down there.
Arrow down to 2 more pages. Next one. There you go. So the capital reserve, you can see all the details
Okay,
below it.
I see.
You're at 3.2.
Right.
Okay, got it. And there's a 3 million.
Yeah.
Sorry, missed that. So that's really helpful. It is interesting that back in 2016, they voted 12 million. Why that?
So we could be here for a long time. At that point, we had our plan in 2016 was to 2030. I think our plan right now is to 2036 because we were following the kindergarten classes 2029, 30. So now our plan is to 2036 because the kindergarten classes. So at that point, based upon combination of things, the building condition survey and how we have parsed that work out over the course of, so we were on a pattern, not necessarily strict, but on a pattern of capital projects every 2 years or so because it takes about that long between when a project is approved and when the project starts, and so you're not having a situation where you have constant disruption in buildings. And so basically that trajectory gave us some sense of, okay, how much then of these projects, how much of it can we use to buffer what we call the local share of reimbursement? And so that's where that formula came from. At some point, we'll revisit that whole thing again to see, based upon, again, the new projection going out, what will be a legitimate amount. Because right now, even with Kathy's proposal of dropping to 4.8, we're only up to 5 million. So we still got $7 million potential to add to reserve still. And so we still have flexibility in that cap. So to say that we're arbitrarily just gonna increase the cap when we haven't fully funded up to the cap yet is not the best palatable argument at this point. But that's how that came from. So looking at projects.
So I asked it that way because I was wondering about the impact 5 Maxwell Drive would have on that, because that wasn't known back then.
Yeah, so that's the reason why. So the 3.2 was actually anticipated as we go into a building condition survey. So that's why, back to almost the point that Jason was making, and the 4.8 is we will be, as I said, we will be having capital projects coming up because we have to. I mean, we're constantly paving and doing roofs. That alone is going to keep us in the business of construction.
Right.
So that's why this becomes important to then get us back into that cycle of having a reserve to address future projects.
Right, I mean, we'd be over 4% to fund that anyway, but over time, that's what I was thinking. And again, specific to 5 Maxwell, but that's a more immediate need, it seems. Okay, Thank you.
Good.
And just to clarify, all these buckets are being held in nice interest-bearing accounts,
Yes.
right? They're not just sitting there.
No.
So I'm assuming that 2 million is probably gonna be even higher.
They're not under the mattress.
Right, my point is, it's not just doing nothing,
No,
right?
yeah, and that's a great point.
Yeah.
That's a great point. Yeah, we try to maximize those. We try not to lock them in so far unless we know certain things we lock in for long-term investment, but we're limited in terms of what we can invest in as a school district anyway.
Thanks for this. I know it's a torture you all have to bear with boards because we have to be reminded of all these moving parts every year, and you guys live it every day. So thanks for the explanations.
It's worthwhile because we're a huge organization. And so we have to think about all the contingencies all the time, because we can never have a situation to say that something that we should have anticipated, we didn't anticipate, and worse yet, we didn't plan for. And so this is a huge planning tool for, not only for the board, I would say for this community. And, ironically, we're talking about taxes and people getting their tax bill. And our tax rates have been relatively flat. And yeah, some people will be surprised that their tax bill will go higher because the market value of their houses, including myself, went up. And I'm thinking like, maybe I should, but you can't buy anything, right? You can sell your house for a nice
Goes
penny,
up everywhere.
but what you gonna buy in return, right? So I say that because the parts that we can control as a system, I think we're doing a very good job of controlling those parts in terms of a reasonable price tag and a quality experience. And I think that's the combination we always want to have moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again, Kathy. We're going to move on to the NISBA delegate and resolutions. Petra is our delegate. Turn it over to you.
Thanks. So once a year, the New York State School Bar Association collates a number of resolutions from each of the districts in the state. They are offered up as options, and the State Bar Association has the School Board Association, I said.
You got your lawyer hat on.
Yes, I'm the association. The School Board Association goes through and chooses the ones that they believe are going to be most palatable for review and potentially bringing to the state the next year for regulation legislation. And now is that time. So they've gone through the original cut, and I think there's a record number of possible resolutions on the table this year. So Dr. Robinson and I will really enjoy our meeting of going through each of these resolutions, and you will be able to see them.
56 of them.
Fantastic. Well, actually,
Oh, no.
I was gonna say keep going down. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's 56 total. Yeah.
And we're gonna discuss which of the resolutions would be appropriate for Shen to vote yes on, bring it back to the board as a whole, and then I will be in a meeting that last year took 5 hours. It's virtual these days. We actually had to go to Buffalo in the past. Thankfully, they're just doing it on the phone and vote using my phone. But that's the process, and the hope is that we will come up with a set of resolutions that the majority of the school districts and the state can get behind, and then they will proactively go and advocate for those resolutions before our state legislators. So at the next meeting, we will come back, we will discuss it. We're probably just gonna highlight some of the most interesting ones because there's a lot. And that's that, and then we'll discuss and vote in October.
Excellent. Thank you. Sure. 7 times. I do mean that. Okay, we're going to move on to consent items, and the first item up is the treasurer's report. Can I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report for the period ending July 31st, 2023? First is Tom. Second is Deanna. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is 5 in favor. Thank you. So for the minutes, for the first one, August 2nd, Jason and Guster were not here for this. So Jason, you can stay if you wish. Can I have a motion to approve the August 2nd minutes? First is Petra, second is Tom. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is 4 in favor, 1 abstention. That is Jason. The next up is the August 22nd minutes, and Petra wasn't here for that meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the August 22nd minutes? First is Deanna, second is Tom. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is 4 in favor and 1 abstention. Moving on to our action items. The first item up. Can I have a motion to approve the leadership organization chart? First is Jason, second is Tom. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is unanimous, 5 in favor. The next item up is our tax levy, which we just discussed. Can I have, and as soon as we vote on this, I'm going to start passing around the document, and if everyone here could sign. Can I have an approval to approve the 2023-24 tax levy? Jason is first, Petra is second. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is 5 in favor. Thank you. Next, the school calendar. Can I have a motion to approve the updated 2022-23 school calendar? First is Tom, second is Deanna. I don't know, Dr. Robinson, if you wanted to explain the update?
Sure. So this school year is, I hope it's unique. For the first time since I've been in New York for the past 30 years, the Board of Regents that set Regents dates, they have what they call Regents rating days. If every year it's only been 1. This year there's 2 because of the holiday that was recently passed in New York City, which everyone anticipates is going to be a statewide holiday as well. And so they set another day because half the state children, which half of them live in New York City, will be out on, and so to create a huge ripple effect across the state in terms of how we look at contracts and things of that nature. And so we made some adjustments for this year with an MOU with our Teachers Association, where we're really trying to look at some of the traditional half days that sometime in the past, like quite frankly, have been disruptive for families. You can have, if you have elementary kids, your kids could be off on 2 days last week, and if you have a middle school kid, you're off 1 day the next week, and for parents, it's kind of all over the place. And so this is actually was an opportunity for us to really try to maximize and have some full days of instruction, and then some full days of PD that we have for rich experiences, and then shift some of those half days towards the end of the school year that are often filled with year-end activities anyway. So this gives us opportunity. So the question then is, this is only for this year, primarily these changes, and so we'll see what the state's going to come out with. As you know, the state is looking at assessments right now, so we have no idea what state assessment is going to look like for 25 and beyond. And based upon that, we'll make some decisions in terms of what's the future implications for calendars. So it's still a 186-day calendar that the board approved. It's just a matter of some of the days that were half days are now full days for either superintendent's conference days for middle and elementary primarily, and some of the days are now full instructional days, again, for middle and elementary primary. It doesn't have a huge impact on high school because high school schedule is pretty much following the region schedule for the most part. So those were the changes, and since we're making those changes, the board is just adopting that calendar again.
And it won't affect the calendars that have already gone out.
No, so we anticipated, so we put those, because they had to be printed. And we don't want to have 32,000 printed incorrect calendars. So I was banking on the board having a reasonable thought and being reasonable people, and recognize that we also shared this information with you a few times to say this is coming down the pike. That finally we had to get the agreement with the unions to formalize it now.
Thank you, I appreciate that. All in favor? It is 5 in favor. Thank you. The next item up. Can I have a motion to approve the disposal of used furniture, equipment, and books?
So we actually changed that to be vehicles and demolition materials, because truly it was about getting rid of some bus. It's the same disposal process, but we just made sure the title was aligned with exactly what's being disposed of.
Okay, so what is the title?
Vehicles and demolition.
Okay. I clearly did not print it off late enough. Vehicles, I know. Okay.
There might be, give her that one, because there's another update too.
I think something else changed.
Yeah.
Actually, there was one that was added, but I thought I got that in there. Okay, so let's try this again. Can I have can I have a motion to approve the disposal of vehicles and demolition materials? Okay, first is Tom, second is Petra. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is 5 in favor, thank you. Actually, I'm gonna now follow this. Just to be safe. Okay, so the next item up is, can I have a motion to approve the bids for snack items, elementary sound
You missed
systems?
one.
No, number 5.
Oh, wait, hang on. Actually, let's go ahead and, let's go and do it in the right order. All right, can I have a motion to approve the reserve allocations? These were also presented by Kathy. I need a first, it's Petra, a second is Jason. Any questions or comments? All in favor? It is 5 in favor. Okay. So totally thrown using a different agenda. All right, bids. Can I have a motion to approve the bids for snack items and/or elementary sound systems? That should be
So there's 17 bids, by the way. So that was-
17? Yes. I need a motion. First is Tom, second is Deanna. Any questions or comments? All in favor? It is 5 in favor. Thank you. The next item up is contract. Can I have a motion to approve the contract for Appel Osborne Landscape Architects? First is Jason, second is Tom. Any comments or questions? This is for 5 Maxwell Drive, the stormwater work that they're doing. All in favor? It is 5 in favor. Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the Fable Vision Learning Contract? First is Tom, second is Deanna. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. That's actually pretty exciting, that one. I'm sure Kathy's in the right order too. Fable Vision's the one for the STEM night.
Correct.
Yes, and hopefully it'll become available for all of our elementary schools. We're excited. Okay, next item up. Can I have a motion to approve the special education contract with Dr. Luba Nakuhinta? Did I say that correctly?
Close.
Close enough? Okay.
A for effort.
A for effort, thank you, appreciate that. First is Petra, second is Jason. Any questions or comments? All in favor? It is 5 in favor. Thank you. And the next item up is our building safety plans, which we reviewed in executive session because of the sensitive nature of the material. Can I have a motion to approve our building safety plans? First is Tom, second is Jason. Any comments? Thank you, Mrs. Farman, for that presentation. All in favor? It is 5 in favor. Thank you. And the final of the action items is here is, can I have a motion for the approval of the bid award to Brownell Electric LLC? This is for the high school use lighting. First is Tom. Need a second. Second is Deanna. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. So we're going to move on to the students. Just invite Mrs. Mylott up.
Yes, good evening. You have before you the recommendations from the committees on preschool and school age special education.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the acceptance of special education placements? First is Tom, second is Petra. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is unanimous. 5 in favor. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Mylott. Invite Mrs. Galea up for the personnel report.
Okay, yes, so I'd like to start off our personnel report with retirements with appreciation. So we have Marianne McAllister with 18 years and Kelly Moore with 18 years. So we wish both of them the best of luck going forward. Also like to welcome Kristen Duguay, who will be our new assistant principal for Acadia. She is here with us tonight. And also included with the staffing proposal, and I believe it will be under the same vote, is our SASE contract for our collective bargaining agreement with the substitutes. So a lot of work has gone into this, a lot of cleanup work with language to ensure that we can all interpret the contract in the same manner, and also some work with some of our rates so that we remain competitive and are able to obtain the substitutes that are necessary. Any questions?
Thank you.
And we also, just a reminder, we have the tenure as well.
Yes, and we will invite her up. Sure. Give me just 1 second here. Okay. So with that, can I have a motion to approve the staffing recommendations and the SASE contract proposal? First is Deanna, second is Jason, and first, any comments or questions?
I do want to say I'm really looking forward to the upgrade in substitute teacher salaries. I think that makes this really competitive, and I'm really pleased that you're all doing this.
Absolutely, thank you. It's been a long time in coming, and I know that a lot of work went into today's staffing recommendations. So thank you. I didn't see the retirees on the report that I looked at, so thank you for bringing that up. Absolutely, we very much appreciate their many years of service, Marianne and Kelly. And any other comments before we vote? Okay, all in favor? It is unanimous, 5 in favor. And so I was thinking of also inviting Mrs. Thorpe Autumn and also our new Acadia principal, Kristen, as well, to welcome you here. So if you could please come up, thank you.
But either way, come inside, easier, inside. Inside handshakes.
Congratulations. Sorry you had to wait for all that.
I learned a lot.
Congratulations and welcome. Yeah.
Yes.
It's your fault, Jason.
This is hazing, you know? So.
Be gay. It's not as fancy as it sounds. It's really not fancy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So with that, we're going to move into our second opportunity for public comments. Not seeing anyone approach the podium, we're going to close the second public comments, and we're going to move into our for good of the order, which is an opportunity for board members to discuss salient district-related matters from a policy perspective, or just to give a shout out. So with that, can I open it up? Jason.
I've heard a lot about a jacket today that I think we should be shouting out. Dr. Robertson's socks, which I don't think have gotten the attention they deserve. So shout out to the socks.
I was noticing the socks too. I was thinking those socks really rock.
High expectations for next year.
Looking very sharp.
And my apologies for all the people here who don't know the backstory this morning, from my speech this morning. There's a backstory.
No, any other comments? Sorry, Tom.
Sorry. So I just wanted to say how fortunate we are to have such dedicated members of the Shen community. But that with dedication and tireless service comes the possibility of overexhaustion and even burnout. And as we set to embark on a new year, I want to speak for a moment on self-care. Self-care is not a luxury. It is not an if I can find time proposition. It is essential. Although we're often called to do so, pouring from an empty or severely depleted cup is simply not sustainable. And contrary to what many of us have been taught, it is not heroic to neglect our own needs. I encourage each of you, faculty, staff, administrators, families, etc., to intentionally set some time aside every day for self-care, whatever it looks like. Reading, knitting, baking, gardening, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Take that time. You deserve it. And have a terrific year.
Thank you. That was very nice. So, looking forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. We have a retreat date set, so it is October 22nd. What's the time? Is it this morning? 9 to 12?
Yes, yeah, 9 to 12 o'clock.
9 to 12 o'clock, okay. And that's it. The next item on the agenda is the policy review schedule and our presentation schedule, which is essentially the agenda so that you have a sense, anyway, as to what's coming. And so with that, we're at the adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn? First is Jason, second is Tom. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.